Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Miracle Bruce, and today I have my sister with me, Mackenzie Bruce. And today we'll be interviewing our dad.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Cabriel Bruce. I'm super excited about being on y'all podcast today, and I'm excited.
Nice. So, how long have you been blind?
Well, I've been visually impaired since I was for 2 years. I was 11 years old when I became visually impaired. I had retina detachments, and I could see. I could see just like a normal person, and then I had detachment surgery. And then I woke up and became blind. So for a long time,
What did you think when you first became blind? Like, what was your reaction?
I was devastated. I was very, very devastated when I became blind. I was an 11-year-old child, and you go from playing and interacting with your friends, and then next thing you know, you can't see. So you're going from being what's considered a normal child into just one day not being able to see, and it was very, very devastating, even suicidal.
How did being visually impaired affect your childhood?
Well, it affected it tremendously. As a child, I could hear other kids out playing and riding their bikes, and in my mind, they was just having so much fun without me, and my whole life changed. I went from being out and active to non-existent. And so as a child, it affected me to the point that I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted to kill myself. I didn't want to live anymore because I couldn't see myself living as a blind person. But that all changed one day. I was at home alone and I was contemplating just go ahead and stabbing myself with a knife, and then I got a knock on the door, and it was this Jehovah's Witness came to the door and wanted to hand me a watchtower. And then growing up, we was taught to run from the Jehovah's Witness, but I opened the door and I was talking to her, and I took the tower, and she realized I was blind, and then she said, "Oh, I have a 5-year-old daughter who likes to read the Bible. Would you mind if she come read to you?" And then I was thinking, a 5-year-old can read the whole Bible, because she said her daughter could read the whole Bible. And I didn't believe it. And so I was like, yeah, I wanted to see. So that day I didn't think about killing myself anymore, because I kept waiting to the next day till the little girl come and read to me. And then so this little this little young girl, she came the next day with her mom, and then she was a little 5-year-old girl, and she's sat under my arm. We sat in the same chair, and then she got on my arm, and she would read to me, and then every week she would come back and read to me, and that gave me hope, and I took that as a sign of hope, and then I started to become active and play and get back out and start doing things, and learning that it's more to life than just being labeled as blind.
Have you ever came in contact with the 5-year-old girl?
I the story is I hung out with them for for a couple of years, and then their mom was tragically killed in a car wreck coming from church. And so I lost contact with them because the mom was the contact person. And then so one day I was here at my house now, and I got a knock on the door, and this little boy was standing at the door, and he was like, with the same thing, he had a watch towel. And I kept saying, well, I know they don't let little boys but be by themselves, but he was with a guy in a wheelchair. And they handed me towel. And so I asked him, I said, do you remember these people? Their name was the Benjamins. And I was expecting them to not, they've been, at that time, had been 25 years later. And I was like, well, 25 years ago, I know this family, the Benjamins and all that. And I was telling him the story, and he was like, well, I don't know them. I'm from New York, but I'm going to ask around. And so a week later, he came back with their dad, and their dad remembered me, and he remembered the story, and the girl went on to get married. She has kids and very successful business. And he said she used to talk about me all the time, and he was gonna put me in contact with her, and but the pandemic hit, and I
Mm.
haven't heard anything from her yet.
When you was in school, did you want to be independent or did you want people to help you along?
Well, I went to the Georgia Academy for the Blind back in 1991. I hated it because it was in Macon, and I was in LaGrange, and my family was in LaGrange, and I wanted to go to public school with my cousin. So I hated the academy. I never gave it a chance. Hated it. So when I went to the academy, they taught me Braille, the little Braille that I know. People ask me now, can I read Braille? I can't. But they taught me Braille and taught me mobility and taught me how to get around. And then they started to prepare me to come to public school, not to stay at the Georgia Academy for the Blind at that time, to come to public school. And I was excited about going to public school. And so when I got to public school, I used to use my cane and walk the halls because everybody knew me and people would help me. And yeah, I wanted to be independent and work. And but when I first got to public school, they didn't know what to do with me. They sat me in a room with students who were nonverbal and other things. And my teacher used to watch all my children. One Life to Live, I think, for a couple of months. We even watched the OJ trial. So we, so we just, you know what I'm saying? My day, I just watch TV all day. Price it Right, Let Me Make a Deal. So that was my day. The teacher, she was just getting paid to watch her. And so one day, and y'all may know this lady. Her name is Miss King, Teresa King. She the reason why y'all born today. If it weren't for Teresa King, your daddy wouldn't have two, three kids.
We don't
But
need to
if
know about all that.
so, she came out and she said uh, she was coming over to the class to tell my teacher something, and she looked up and saw me, and she said, "Can I invite him to my class?" And then my teacher said, "Yeah," because she didn't care. You know, real one I ain't gotta watch no more. And so she began to she took me to a class, and she was in the lead class. It was a special advanced student class. Her class was for smart with some smart people. And I got in there and I got to interacting, and I was participating, and I never looked back. And it was only one girl smarter than me. Her name was Shanika. But other than that, I was the second smartest person in that class. So I went from being in the class with watching One Life to Live to working with Shanika on projects and becoming a student. So yeah, and that brought forth my independence, and it gave me my confidence, and then I started hollering at girls, and you know what I'm saying. That's how y'all end up getting here, you know.
Yeah. So, since we're talking about school, how was your high school experience?
Well, I had an opportunity to go to either LaGrange High or Troop. Troop was flat surface, and LaGrange High had steps and things. I chose LaGrange High because my cousins were going to LaGrange High, and my sister and family member had graduated from LaGrange High. And first day of high school, I get in, the bell ring. It was lunchtime because I came over at lunchtime, and they knocked me down running into the lunchroom. They knocked me down. I think somebody even stepped on me. True story. And then I had the little teacher, like Miss Trailer was to you. So I had
Yeah.
that teacher to come, and they knocked me and her down. They stepped on me going on the lunch, and I'm like, this is not gonna be good at all. So I dusted myself out, got up, went to lunch, and um, got with the people I know, and it was great. I knew the school, so I could walk around my cane. Everybody knew me from middle school, so it wasn't a problem. Um, and and I enjoyed it, and I did use Sighted Guide sometime with family members or my cousin and my other students. But I enjoyed. high school, the time that I was in there. And then the fun part about high school was the girls. Even though I'm blind, I could spot a baddie, and I start to see pretty girls and start getting interested in girls along with my high school. But I had my grades were very good. I could do my assignments, and nobody picked on me because we at that time we all grew up in the same community. We all went to school together, so everybody knew I was blind. So calling me blind, that didn't mean it wasn't a matter because you knew, and nobody picked on me. And I used to freestyle and rap with people at lunch and in the hallway, everything, because I was a great rapper back then, and I could, we used to battle rap a
Yeah.
couple people, you know, I know I used to rap with, and I enjoyed my high school. I enjoyed it. I loved the high school. I loved it going to the grade high. I wish I would have stayed in high school, uh, but love prevailed.
Mm. So, how was life outside of high school, like in your teenage years?
Well, I got married in my teenage years, so I started dating this young lady, and my lord, and we started dating, and then we started to get married, and the whole dynamics of my life changed. So I went from being this blind person to being this blind husband. So on top of my life changing to the fact that I had to be somebody's husband, I was also visually impaired with a wife. And so that was a change within itself. So not only did I have to try to look out for myself the best way I could, I had to navigate life with a wife. And so I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade and to pursue being a husband. And I think looking back on that, and we both would agree that was one of the worst mistakes that we could have made at that time by dropping out of high school to pursue a family when we should have stayed in high school. And so not only did I have to get up and try to provide for myself when my parents were providing for me, now my parents don't provide for me no more because now I got to provide for a wife. And so that was a struggle within itself coming out of high school. When I should be getting ready to go to college, I'm getting ready to go to work. So, you know.
Mm. So, speaking of work, what was your first job?
Well, my first job was at New Ventures. The first ever job I had was in a company called New Ventures Incorporated in LaGrange, Georgia. I was what they call a battery capper.
Mm.
And I would put caps on a battery.
Mm.
And then I would do that, and I would work so hard. I was on time, and I worked so hard because it was a production job. You didn't get paid by the hour. You got paid by the parts that you produce. So I got paid by the tray, like 50, 60 cents a tray. And I had to cap like 300 batteries in a tray. And so you can do the math on that. And so I was so good at that till they started to put me on other jobs, and I would master that. So every job I would do, I would overachieve, I would exceed, and I was always moving up because I was ambitious because I wanted to provide. At that time, I had bills, and so I had to pay those bills. I wasn't depending on the government or Social Security. I wanted to provide for my family because I took on that responsibility. So what I did was I worked so hard and I would move up. And then I left that job and started a vending machine company. I had got two vending machines and put them on my mama's front porch and started a vending machine company. And I got up to 10 vending machines, and we was making great money. I had hired some of my family members, and I had started a company. And then one day my wife said, "I'm pregnant." And
Oh.
then, yeah, so she pregnant and she used to help me. And then we had this baby girl named Miracle. And then, I decided that I needed a full-time paycheck. I didn't need to be a vending machine owner because I didn't want, at the time, my daughter needed special soap and she couldn't wear certain Pampers and she was just a very expensive little child. Jesus Christ, I don't know what was wrong with her. But
Okay, so
but the only Pampers she can wear them Kroger brand Pampers. I get about 102 for $5. She can wear them, but all other Pampers she couldn't wear. And she'd be itching and scratching and crying and everything. And so I left that my company. I sold my company, went back to New Ventures and started working. Moved back up from again in the company and became a salesman and started working in the office at that time.
mm. So speaking of your first child, um, how did it feel to have your first child?
The feeling of having a child was is unexplainable. You have this baby that you hold in your arm for the first time that is a part of you, and you love them so much, and you want to protect them and do so much for them. And it was just an overwhelming, exciting, humble feeling that I can't explain. And then we were so enjoying that baby so much, and next thing you know, my wife like, "Oh, I'm pregnant again." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! That can't keep coming this fast. You can't be having babies every 6 months." So I had to write the Stark a cease and desist letter, and like, "Hey, stop dropping kids off at their house. Drop some kids off at the neighbor house over there next door. Don't keep dropping them over here." And then that feeling was repeated over when I held my second daughter, Mackenzie, in my hands, and I had both of my kids. They 13 months apart at this time, and then to see them grow up together and be each other friends, and it was happiness.
Being visually impaired and knowing your wife had some disabilities, how did y'all cope with having two kids?
Well, at the time when my daughters were born, my wife didn't have a disability. She developed multiple sclerosis in 2009. So at the time, I have a 3-year old and a 2-year old, and the dynamics of the parenting changed. At the time, because I would change y'all, my children. I would bathe you. I would feed you and do all those things for you. But when my children's mother got sick, then the bond between my children and myself changed because we had to take care of each other at the time because my wife was in and out of the hospital, in and out of rehab, and we had to cope. And then a lot of nights, I did the best with feeding them and taking care of my kids, and one reason I love my sister so much because she would help me. My sister Lisa, she's passed now, but she would help me um, get around and do things for me and my kids to allow me to still be my kid parent because my fear was that my wife was sick and I was blind and somebody was gonna come take my children, and I would do the best to not. I did my best to not lose my children.
Mm. What was the biggest struggles of that?
My children were girls. That's the biggest struggle. They was girls, so I didn't know nothing about combing no hair. I didn't know nothing about braiding no hair. See, if it was a boy, I could take you to the barber shop. You could walk around with your shirt off, and things like that. Nope, never a pamp on. And we would have been good, but I had to make sure that I was extra careful with my two girls because they was girls, and I would have to. My sister would come do your hair, and they would make sure y'all had on matching clothes and things like that. And we had to always be careful. And y'all so advanced, so you learn how to. Y'all was potty trained early, so you knew how to use the potty and clean yourself up, and then you start bathing yourself. And that made it easy for me that I didn't have to do some of the things because y'all adapted, my children adapted to the situation at hand. That the mom was sick and we had to. And I know some nights y'all probably ate some food that wasn't good when I used to try to cook and stuff for you. But y'all bad with it. We used to call Mackenzie Mikey because
All
she would
right.
eat anything.
All
You know
right.
what I'm saying? It didn't matter. You put it on the table, Mackenzie. She would gobble it up. So I didn't have no problem with Mackenzie eating. And then on top of that, I had a visually impaired child too. So when my oldest child, we figured out that she was visually impaired at 2 months old, that she couldn't see, and she had to have surgery, and she had to wear contacts, and you had to we every time she would lose a contact, I had to pay $100, and so even with that, and then we got on glasses, making sure she didn't break her glasses or lose her glasses and worry about what she could and couldn't see on top of that. So it was a struggle, but we made it through, by the grace of God and just by bonding together to let them know, and I never held them back from y'all. I always told you that, we got to look out for each other. Even though when we were younger, y'all used to go up on the tree limb when we walked to the store, and then y'all get your dad hit in the head and get clothesline and thing like that. And, you didn't know nothing about stepping off, so I would step all wrong, twist my ankle, thing like that. Y'all used to try to hurt your daddy, but we still made it.
Mm. So speaking of your first child being visually impaired, when you found out as a visually impaired parent, how did that make you feel?
It devastated me because I didn't want my child to be visually impaired. I didn't want my child to go through some of the things I had went through mentally, and I didn't know the extent of it. So um, I struggled with that as a parent, and then also it gave me an understanding of how my parents felt based on what I experienced. And so some of the same decisions my parents had to make, I turned around and was faced with those same decisions to make. And so overall, it wasn't a good feeling. It took a lot of prayer and understanding. Um, but my second child didn't have any vision problem.
What's one thing you wish you could go back and change?
One thing that I wish could go back and change is I would have stayed at the Georgia Academy for the Blind. I wish I didn't leave and come to public school. And I'm saying this because I wish I would have learned a lot of Braille, a lot of the friendships, a lot of the independence and being away from your family and experiences that some of my friends had. I didn't get. And I think if I would have went and stayed at Georgia Academy, I would have graduated and went on to college. I wish that's one of the things that I wish I would have did. I wish I would have got married early. And that's no knock against my relationship with my wife, but she'll tell you the same thing. Based on we was just so young and we didn't, and we shouldn't have been put ourselves in those situations. So I would recommend to my children, no, don't get married young. Enjoy life, experience life, learn things, know what you like, know what you want in life, go to college or see the world, go out and travel and do things instead of having to get up and be pressured into making sure that the light gonna be cut on. Or, cause when you get married, your light becomes somebody else's light. So being free and not having to worry about what your husband say or pleasing another person, you'll have opportunity to just please God and yourself versus trying to do things to make sure that your relationships stays great at a 16, 17, 18-year old span when you may want to get out and twerk, but your husband may not want you to be a twerker. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Okay.
city
I
girls
get
up.
you.
So,
Yes.
you you may want to do that things, and then your husband may not want you to do. You may want to stay, hang out with your friends, or you may want to go out, but then you may want to get home. It's just a lot when you're married. So I would recommend anybody to know who you are as a person before you take on somebody else's life.
Mm. So, if you would have did those things differently, do you think your life would be different or better?
I think it'll be different. I can't necessarily say better, but I do know that it will be different
Oh.
because some of the experiences. I went to high school. I probably would have still met your mother based on the way we met. So we probably still would have, because she was my niece's best friend at the time. So I probably would have still met her. But, I don't know. She probably could have been married some other dude or dating some other dude, or I could have been off at school at the time that we met. So, I just know it'd been different. I probably could have ended up marrying another blind person or things of that nature. So you never know, because you never know what relationship that I would have been in at the academy or whatever relationship she would have been in at the school that she was in. So our paths may not have crossed, and you may have a different mother
Mm.
or
So,
father.
did you and your wife have a understanding about the your visual impairment? Like, did she accept it? Was she like ashamed? Like, how was that?
That'll be a question that you may want to get
I mean,
her
you can be
Most,
one
observant of it.
one
most.
day and ask her. I do. I think that it was just in the beginning. I don't know. I don't think that we really thought about that in the beginning. Me personally, sometimes I did think that she was ashamed of me. I thought that the reason why we didn't go down certain family member houses or go places because she didn't want to drag no blind person on her back with her, and I think she was ashamed of me based on her family members. Her cousin used to tell her, "Well, you so pretty, you ain't gotta be married to no blind person. You can get anybody you want." And she might not know. I used to know they used to say stuff like that about me, and but it's all good. But at some points, I think that it became a struggle by having to do all the driving and all those other things like that. I think sometimes that took a toll on the relationship.
We're gonna fast forward because we know you have a son. So,
well,
tell us about your son.
I didn't know that if you write the stork and tell him to stop sending you kids, that it's a statute of limitation on it. So 8 years later, I was in a board meeting, and my sister called and she like, "Your wife's sick. I got to take her to the hospital." So I'm thinking maybe it's MS related. And so I'm like, okay. So I get home from the meeting. She called me back laughing, like, "Guess who pregnant?" And so I'm thinking in my niece, because my niece had just had a baby, my nephew Junior. So I'm thinking that my niece pregnant again. I'm like, "Duh, who gonna have him like Mackenzie Miracle?" And then she like, "Nah, your wife pregnant." And I hung up the phone like, "Nah."
God.
I hung the phone up because I thought she was just lying joking. So she called me back. And she like, "Yeah, your wife pregnant, man." And I'm like, "No, no, no. Ain't no way my wife pregnant because we took all the necessary precaution to prevent having another child because we didn't necessarily," and I had to be careful saying this, it wasn't the point that we didn't want my son. It was the point of both of us at the time. We had our hands full with with my two daughters, and they was 8, 9, 7, 8 years old, and everything was going like good. Anyway, like great, and,
Oh no.
and everything was still good. And so I didn't know that the start was going to drop out, and I'm like, man, I thought maybe he would do it to the neighbor. They were newlyweds, and that lady was crying for a baby. Gonna drop
Mm.
a baby out there, and I love my son. That was my son. That was my son. I wanted to name him Malik after my favorite person, Malik Elderboy Wright, and that was gonna be his name, Malik Elderboy Wright Bruce. Was gonna be his name, but we ended up his mama allowed me to decide, ended up naming him Cabriel Bruce Jr. We call him CJ. He's 8 years old now, and he's a handful.
Based on our research,
Mm-hmm.
they said that your son might be blind. Is that correct?
Yeah, when we first had him, the pediatrician, I think she looked and when she did his check when he was born, and she like, oh well, he's gonna be blind because I see cataracts on his eye. And then she showed him to our pastor and our first lady who was out the other day that the baby was born, and they were like, well, he gonna be blind, he gonna be blind, he gonna be blind, and and I'm devastated again. I gotta deal with this, so I gotta wait till he get out of the hospital and wait till he get old enough. They made an appointment with the same doctor who confirmed that that Miracle, my oldest child, was blind, and but I knew DNA from being in school, and he had jaundice when he was born. Mackenzie had jaundice too when she was born, and you can look up jaundice and see what it is. I don't have time to explain, but when I think you be orange or something, and so
Oh.
and they put you under the light and things to that nature. And so, and I was thinking, I was like, well, he got Johnny. McKinney had Johnny. Then the opportunity of him being blind is slim, but I'm still listen to the doctor. And so we take him to the doctor, and the doctor checked him over. He like, who said that boy had cataracts and gonna be blind? And I like the pediatrician at the hospital. He like, well, she lied. This boy don't have no cataract. He gonna have 20/20 vision, and now he see everything. And I think the pediatrician at the time just saw that I was blind and just made a assumption.
Do you want any more kids?
No, I'm gonna wait on grandkids. Wait on when y'all get 30, 35 years old and
Ain't nobody pushing for
start
letting that
bringing
go.
grandkids in the
Might as well
house.
let that go.
And we gonna be your mom, or or we'll be grandparents. She can take them to her room and be their grandparents, and then you can bring them to me, and I can be their granddad, and we can just be grandparents.
Mm.
Before any more kids, no, that ship has sailed.
So we know that your kids, based on the math, we know that your kids are getting close to that 18 range.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, since you and your wife both have a disability,
Mm-hmm.
and some you might think that your kids might want to go off to college or go do something with their life, are you afraid that you won't have that help, that extra help no more? That
No, because I want my kids to experience life, so I'm not gonna hold my kid back based on the fact of what I may need or what their mom may need. Based on the fact that they're their own individual, and a lot of times us as people with challenges or disability try to make our kids become our caretakers, and that's not true. My kids are not my caretaker. We helped each other when y'all was young and growing up, and when you get 18, you getting out of here and experience life. And I don't take you for it. I take it, and I always be there for you. But I want you to go to college. I want you to if it's college ain't into what you want to do, get a job and live your life because y'all know you're there. I live my life from out here in these streets. I'll
No.
jump on a plane and fly to New York. I done been to New York before, by myself with another group, or I go to Ohio. When I go places and meet people and get out and being in the community as a community organizer. So I'm busy. So sitting at home with an empty nest syndrome, no, I want y'all to get out and instill some of the things that I put into you when y'all was growing up?
What do you think was one of the most valuable lessons that you taught your kids?
Well, I growing up and seeing they dad get up and go to work every day should I want them to see that despite whatever the circumstances that life may present itself, that life goes on. It's life still goes on. You still have to live life. The meter still gonna turn. The light still gonna need to be on. So you gotta get up, dust yourself off, go to work, be what all you can be. You can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. I had to fight the odds. Like I just said then, as a community organizer, my family never, some of my family never flew. I jumped on a plane and went to New York City by myself. When people had told me growing up that I would never leave LaGrange, that I was gonna be in a home, but I stood in Times Square. I stood in Apollo, and where I used to watch Showtime at the Apollo on TV. I was in there. So that let them know that when they saw their dad didn't have no limitations in life, that you can still do whatever you want to, despite whatever circumstances or challenges life brings. And so I hope that I extended that to them.
Mm. So we know that you're a minister also. How is it being a blind minister?
Oh man, I started preaching in 20 years ago. Actually, when I spoke last 2 Sundays ago, that was my 20-year anniversary, but I didn't tell nobody. But it's church changed my life. God changed my life. My hope and belief in Jesus Christ changed my life, and that was the reason why I think that my marriage lasted long as it did. um, Based on the fact that we was in church and we was away from some of the things of life. And y'all were brought up in church. You never missed a Sunday. Y'all would complain about being in church. You was in church on Monday night. We were doing something on Wednesday night. We were doing something on the weekend. We was always around the church people and in church. And so and I enjoy it when you get up and you stand up in front of the crowd, especially my church, and you teach and you expound on the Bible. And after I do my research and my study, and I think I'm a good preacher. I think and public speaker. I done public speaking, so I love speaking and preaching and being around my church family and helping people come to the realization of Christ.
We know you spoke at,
Georgia, University of Georgia.
yes, University of Georgia. So how was that?
It, it happened by accident. I was helping. I was because I told you I was a community organizer, and I was project managing a community garden for uh, some young ladies who had some nonverbal kids, and they was scheduled. One of the girls was scheduled to present a speech that day, but she got caught up in traffic, and it was impossible for her to meet when at time. And so the other group members I was with, they were like, "Well, who gonna speak? Who gonna speak? I'm scared. I can't do it. I don't have nothing to say." And then the other lady, one of the girls, looked over and said, "Cabriel, you do it." And I said, "You know me. I ain't passing up no opportunity. I'm a Georgia fan. Georgia #1. The Howell packed. So I jumped. So when they came for the girl, they were like, "Well, Cabriel gonna come up and speak." So I jump up and speak, and I get a standing ovation, and the electricity in the air, and I felt so good. And so that was, other than speaking in New York, that was one of my proudest of speaking accomplishments. And I spoke in a lot of places, before at my job, I went around to every college it was, and Kennesaw State, and um, colleges in Macon, Statesboro. I flew down on an airplane from Columbus to Savannah one day and hit all the Savannah, Armstrong University, Savannah Tech, Savannah State, and Fort Valley, and places like that. So I've been in colleges and speak, but my Georgia experience is something I hold dear to my heart.
Judging by the fact that you're blind and you're ministering, do you feel as if people look at you differently in the church?
Not at my church, because we all know each other, and they know I'm bruh Bruce, and they know what I'm capable of. But I have been at other churches where they don't know what to expect. I remember the pastor once again was scared to speak somewhere, and I was there waiting on him, and he called me, and he like, "Well, I ain't gonna be able to make it. I'm in traffic. I'm gonna put the pastor on. I'm gonna tell him that you gonna take my place." And so the pastor, he was like, can he do it? Or, he didn't think I could talk or anything because I was blind. So one of the misconceptions a lot of people have, you're blind, that you're slow or you're retarded or you can't hear or thing like that. And so I remember when I got up on stage and got ready, he kept asking me, "You sure you can do this?" and all that. And then once again, I get up there, open my mouth, I rock the house and standing ovation again, and changing misconception. So not my church per se, but I have been a lot of places where when you go in there, everybody stare at you, and I have been places where they'll be like, "If you blind, come on up here. The Lord gonna heal you today. Let Him lay hands on you." And I'm like, I know they saw me come in blind, so they want to use me as an example, and then they'll get you up, they'll lay hands on you. And then when God don't open your eyes, your faith ain't strong. Or, you ain't got enough faith or something like that. So I just learned to just sit back now when I go other places and not be on no show or anything. I just want to enjoy the word.
So, judging by the fact that what you just said about the laying hands and stuff, have
Hmm.
you ever had an encounter in public when somebody tried to lay hands on you?
Yes, and I know where you go with this. I'm Halloween. Picture the scene. Halloween. I'm downtown. My mother-in-law having an event, so I'm just stopping by. I want to eat a hot dog and just chill. I ain't got nothing to do with this event. I'm just there in support. Can we pray for you? I'm like, no, it's a public event. I don't think it's appropriate right now. Let's do this later. Next thing I know, 8 to 12 people come rushing up on me, laying hands, speaking in tongues. Be healed, be healed. In the name of Jesus. Blah, 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 blah. And I felt bum rush or uncomfortable. So the Bible say lay hands suddenly on no man. So if you out there listening, I know you want to pray for people and lay hands, but if they tell you no, this ain't the time, or it's not appropriate time, please don't do it because it violates our personal space and privacy at people.
Being a blind person,
Mm-hmm.
you can't see your surroundings.
Right.
So, have you ever had one of those scary moments where it's like, I don't know what, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know who's here. You know?
I try to always be self conscious of who's in the room or what my surroundings going on because you never know. And if visually impaired or vision, either way, always be conscious of your surroundings. So yes, there have been some time that I have thought somebody maybe was in my house, or I had one time I was on the phone when I was young, and I was sitting in my uncle car listening to the music, and then the person just jumped in the car, cranked up, made the gas, and pulled off. And then by them doing that, I was scared, and I was telling the person I was on the phone, "Call the police, call the police, call the police. I'm being kidnapped." And so, but it was my sister playing a joke on me. And ever since then, I locked the doors and everything.
Mm, nice. So, do you think that your family looks at you differently?
Sometimes.
We We know that you have a daughter, right, who's visually impaired,
Mm-hmm.
and we know by research that when she was 11, the same age you were
Mm-hmm.
when you became blind, that well, just tell us about that. Tell us about that.
About her having the surgery too.
Yes.
Oh, it was a scary moment. It was her first surgery outside of when she was a baby, and self-consciously, I feared that she was gonna wake up the same way I did. And when she didn't, it was a big relief. But up until that, I felt that she was gonna wake up blind, and it was a big fear, man. And it scared me, and I'm grateful that it didn't happen. And there's to go back to what I was saying earlier. I was faced with some of the same decisions. And it's funny how it worked out that way. That I was faced with the same decision to either let her have surgery or not. And but I wanted the best opportunity for my child, so I chose for her to have the surgery, regardless of my personal feeling, and trusted in God and hope that He bring her through it, which He did.
Nice. Is it hard being a visually impaired dad?
Yeah, because you got to worry about them sneaking out the window. You got to worry about them on video, somewhat twerking. You got to keep them out of commotion, and you got to worry. You gotta worry about them trying to sneak boys in. They get 16 and then they get the smelling themselves and they want to date these old knuckleheads. And you gotta worry about these boys and then they try to get sassy and then you gotta worry about what they wearing. They coming out the house half naked. You know what I'm saying? So, you had to be self conscious. But y'all were brought up to be respectful and dress appropriately. So I don't have to worry about that. But I will tell any boy, if I catch you in this house, I guarantee you I will get on the TV and pray with your mama and your daddy and ask that whoever you got you bring you back home, and I hope you'll be safe, and then go out there and walk over your grave as I take out my trash.
Oh my
So
god.
that's just to let you know. I
Oh,
will be at your prayer conference.
With that, speaking of that, do you feel as if your daughters will try to sneak somebody in, or would they just tell
I
you?
don't put nothing past you. You'll try. But I'm letting you know, letting you know the consequences. I don't told you the consequences now.
So you
No, I
think?
don't told you what I have.
So you
So,
think they would sneak somebody in
oh
and risk
yeah,
it
no, your mama
other than
snuck
telling you?
your mama snuck me in her house and she could see.
That ain't got nothing to do
So,
with
so, so, come on. I hid in her closet one time. So come
mm.
on now, don't do that.
you hid in her closet. Can we hear that stuff?
Nah, you know, nah.
No, no,
Mm.
no.
One day we had skilled school and we was on the bed making out.
I could have lived.
You asked for this. And so we're about to get naked, right? And then so somebody with the beating on the door, La Crystal, open the door, Crystal, open the door. Boom, boom, boom. And she's like, that's my stepdad. And I had, get in the closet. So, and then you know how your grandma, she a pack rat. So they were battling in her room. They didn't get in the closet. So I got in the closet, shot the door. He had don't forgot something. He came, got what he got and left. We're
Mm.
in the mood though. One no more making out. Yeah, I called Gigi. Gigi came pick me up because I didn't know if he was gonna come back or not. And
Nice.
so and those things were good, and that made me the person who I am now. And I can take these stories that I have and share them, especially with our ISight community. What we're doing here and bringing visually impaired people together. We're on Clubhouse. We're on YouTube. We're meeting in person every week, and we're letting people know that despite your disability, despite your challenges, you can have friends. You can have a normal life. We debunking some of the misconception. about being visually impaired. Just because I can't see, that don't mean I can't have a family. Just because I can't see, that don't mean I can't have a job or have friends or have relationships. We go through the same up and down as visual people. The only thing different, we just can't see the punches coming when they come, but we still get hit.
Mr. Bruce, we thank you for joining our interview today.
Thank you for your time, sir.
All right. Like us on Facebook. ISight, ISight. Like, share, subscribe the page. Go back and listen to all the podcasts and interview on Facebook. That ISight, ISight. I even got a video on me shooting basketball because I'm Steph Curry with his shot. Woo!
Nah.
And so, you know, you can do that. And so, you cash app us. That's at ISight, $ISight. If you want to donate to the call, we out here in these streets. We having fun. I appreciate y'all, and I hope that my daughter grow up to be good interviewer like y'all. I'm proud of y'all dad, whoever he is. Um, y'all dad did a good job with it. And so make sure I tell y'all dad to nail the window down just in case y'all might try to get out there and wonder, sneak them boys in. Or girls, you never know these days. I ain't gonna tell. You know what I'm saying? People, I big up to my LGBT community. And for you all visually impaired and in the LGBT community, you still a part of us. So we see you. Y'all have fun. God bless each and every one of y'all. And I'm just excited about this. So um, y'all did good, and God bless y'all.
God bless.